It was good, y'all. It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man. Well, welcome into the first episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast of the 2025 year. First episode to kick things off after a incredibly disappointing end to the 2024 year. A lot to get into on this, boys. I haven't had an episode in weeks. I've been stupid busy. Just too much going on. I haven't been able to get around to doing an episode. So I'm glad to do this. Wish it was better circumstances because we have to talk about an incredibly frustrating loss. So if you're joining us tonight, welcome into the podcast. Chris, what's up? I know you've been excited to jump on and get with this one.
What's up, Chris?
We got a lot to get into on this. So if you're watching us live, thank you so much. If you catch this later, if you're watching on YouTube later, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. Be one of the 1,000+ subscribers we've got. KU basketball, KU football, Chiefs, Royals, NBA, sports betting. We do a lot of content and have a lot of great stuff for you guys. So thank you so much for the support. Thank you, everyone that subscribed in 2024. That was a big year for us. Hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, like I mentioned. Picked up about 700 subscribers throughout the year. Got a lot of fun things in store for you guys in 2025. Some new content we're going to get into. All that stuff coming. A couple great things in the works. But we got to talk KU basketball. And my goodness, what a terrible, terrible game that was. Somehow only ended up losing by one, all things considered. I have a lot of takes on this game. Derek and I, we were in a chat last night with Jayhawk Focus over on Twitter with a bunch of angry KU fans and some K-State fans too. That was kind of interesting. And I actually missed the game live yesterday, so I had to go back and rewatch it today to confirm some of my takes. But looking at the box score basically told me everything I need to know. So I got a lot to get into in this game. I rewatched the game, and as I told you guys earlier, I have a lot of notes. I mapped out Hunter Dickinson, as well as a little bit of KJ. So I got a lot to get into. Before I go on my spiel about this game and get into the gist of it, anything you guys want to get off your chest first about the team, about the season? 2024 was probably one of the most disappointing KU basketball, football years combined. Basketball ends very poorly in the spring with March Madness, get blown out by Gonzaga. KU football wasted one of the best seasons they could have had by the way they played. And now their transfer portal has been tremendous for them, so they're recovering. But yeah, KU basketball, record-wise, not off to a bad start, but very disappointing. 3 losses we have are all very, very ugly. So I'm going to put a couple things on Twitter real quick, so I'll let you guys take the floor for a few seconds here as we get rolling. And so if you are joining us live, thank you so much. Be sure to drop any of your thoughts about the game in the comment section below. I got a lot of questions for everybody. We're going to go through rotation, minute projections, all that kind of stuff, and figure out why this team looks ugly. And if it's not a Zeke Mayo 3 or a Hunter Dickinson layup, why this team looks like they're going nowhere fast.
Yeah. Chris and Noah.
Take a breath.
Oh, yeah.
Before you start.
Yes, there will definitely be a JB rant in this for sure.
I've got something cooked up for y'all already.
Fireworks in 3, 2, 1.
Chris and Noah, thank you guys for already commenting and saying what's up. Definitely let us know if you have any questions. We got some stuff we can iron out in this podcast, but it's tough, But Keegan, you talked about it. You touched on it. How 2024 was just not the best year, and I feel like a part of that, especially down the stretch with some of the losses that this KU basketball team has had, has just put me in a funk, man. When's the last time, it's probably 2 episodes ago, but when was the last time that I actually wore a KU hat? Because I talked about it in the last podcast episode. When I'm wearing this hat, it's because I'm not a KU fan right now. I'm being dramatic, but I'm very frustrated. In fact, it's as frustrated as I am. I remember looking at the score. I couldn't watch the game when it was first on because I was working. But when I saw the score, it's bad when you just kind of look at it and you're like, whatever, saw that coming. And I don't even know if I actually saw it coming. But the more it brewed, I'm like, how the heck did we lose that game? And you know what really sucks about this is the fact that it's our conference opener. I put out on Twitter, I'm like, excuse me. I put out on Twitter, I'm like, when's the last time that we lost our conference opener? And of course, no one, because no one freaking follows me.
Over 30 years.
Yeah, no one said anything. I had to look it up. Yeah,
1991.
1999. Yeah, 1991. So I'm like, wow, that's horrible. I could take the loss if it wasn't the first game of conference play. That's what really, really frustrates me, because I don't know why I care about this. It's really stuff I shouldn't care about because everyone says, well, championships, national championships are what you should care about. I like streaks. I fell in love with KU basketball because of the Big 12 title streak. Okay? I know it wasn't national titles. It wasn't a streak of national titles, but I fell in love with that streak. Another streak I love is conference opener wins. Another streak I love is senior night wins. Okay? What the fact that we lost one of those streaks, like I have to I'm in a zone of mourning right now, and it's a little sad, but I don't know. Spencer, am I freaking out over this streak? Is it really not a big deal, or am I just being my overreacting self?
No, I agree with you. I like streaks like that too. I like the absurd streaks that we have. Going 30 plus years without a Big 12 opener loss is a big deal, and it's part of our culture and our history. And each time we lose one of those things, it's hurtful to the brand of KU basketball. So I don't think you're overreacting, which I often don't think you do. I exaggerate. I exaggerate. It's a frustrating. It was a frustrating game, and there's a lot of factors that are going into it, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Because honestly, the Chris, I see that you said in the chat there that the last time we won, or last time that we lost a home opener is even longer. Holy cow! I don't know if you can look that up and tell us really quick. Let us know. Man, that just Chris, that just makes me upset even more. So thank you, sir. I appreciate it, but can we not bring the mood down? No, I'm kidding. It's frustrating because that loss, honestly, like it felt like one of those games, especially, oh my God, 1963. Jayhawk edits. Why did you have to say
Jayhawk
that?
edits. Thank you.
That loss felt like something that doesn't happen. Like it's like you look at in an alternate reality, KJ gets called gets a call at the very end and shoots 2 free throws and wins. And then all of K-State Twitter is going on there saying like, oh, KU gets all the calls in Allen Fieldhouse and oh, y'all should have lost this game. But it didn't happen. We lost the game. It just doesn't make sense. I'm kind of crashing out. I'm on full meltdown mode right now.
So let's do this. Okay, so you just brought up something, and I'll change gears for just a second.
Okay.
Let's say KJ gets fouled, makes the 2 free throws, KU wins. We're going to be glad about the win. However, there's still a lot of terrible things that happened in that game that you would feel very uneasy about. And these are problems that have existed the entire season, and they're problems that we said coming into the year would show up ugly. And if they did, they would give us concern. So we got to get into all of it. We got to start this. The main point of this episode for me is to talk about this guy right here that Noah Barkley is mentioning. Is Hunter Dickinson the worst big defensive guy we've had? He's definitely up there. I don't know how you could have a worse big man defender. So here's what I did. We're going to get into it. So let me go to the box score real quick. So KU loses 62-61. West Virginia shoots 43% from the floor, 26 for 60, 6 of 20 from 3. Only held them to 6 free throw attempts, which is great. As I get into some of the further stats here, I want to go to points in the paint ended up 28-28. Wichita. West Virginia started, I think, with 16 points in the paint in the first half at a point. and it was all against Hunter Dickinson. Even Eric Chenoweth was better. Oh my gosh! Shout out Eric Chenoweth. Yeah, that was a great player, but yeah, rough defensively. So let's get into it. So here's what I did, guys. For those of you watching
Wouldn't
back
go that
home,
far.
those of you that are listening later, I charted out Hunter Dickinson. I rewatched the game today and only focused on one player only, and that was Hunter Dickinson. On my list, I've got several things. Notated is the fact that Hunter Dickinson was responsible for 18 negative plays.
Ouch.
I don't know. I didn't double check this. I don't know what his exact plus minus was for the game. I guess I could pull it up. I'll try and pull it up here in a minute. I didn't look at the plus minus on him. But from what I can tell, this was one of the worst games of his Kansas career, one of the worst games of his career as a whole. Goes 4 for 10 from the floor, misses the only 3 he takes, just kind of bounced out. Hunter Dickinson had one of the worst games I've ever seen out of a big man. This was the Gonzaga game all over. So as I go through this list with you guys, just be prepared from disappointment.
Oh, no.
18 negative plays. It was obvious from the get-go. The plan was get Hunter in pick and roll scenarios to where he'd have to leave the basket and have wide open runways. And in the first half, West Virginia, who is missing like half their roster right now, Eduardo Andre and then what's his name, Akani, both just attacked the paint. And Andre, who averages like 4 points a game, had 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 blocks, and was just an absolute monster. All of this was getting Hunter in pick and roll spaces. So of these 18 negative plays, I have where'd it go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10, and that's probably being generous. 10 ball screen plays that he was a part of that led to an opposing bucket for West Virginia that he was the primary reason the basket either scored or the play went south. So 10 times he was caught in a ball screen that poorly. Now, I will say this. About the end of the first half and early part of the second half, Bill Self adjusted a little bit, and instead of hedging him out so far, they started kind of double teaming, trapping, and it worked for a little bit, and they got around it. But here's why do we continue to hedge ball screens with Hunter? Couldn't tell you. He's slow. He's slow as crap. So 18 negative plays. 10 of them were in ball screens. He, from my tracking, gave up 25 points to West Virginia. He was responsible for 25 points for West Virginia. Not all of them. I think he was the primary reason, but he was a part of the play, whether it was him not switching quick enough and allowing his man to attack the paint, or switching and DeJuan gets in a bad matchup or something like that. Hunter Dickinson had a terrible game. The slowness of his feet was evident. His lack of athleticism was evident. Missed some shots that should have gone in, made some tough shots too. Didn't play very physical. Got a good chunk of rebounds, but he got manhandled in this game. And not only did it remind me a lot of the Gonzaga game in the spring where they did the same thing, just got in ball screens and scored like 70,000 points in the paint. It also just got me worried about the way a team like Houston plays, where Houston loves the ball screen in the middle with Juwan Roberts. And those types of teams, I think, are going to eat KU up this year. So Hunter's the main thing I want to talk about. The fact that and I said this on Twitter last night in the Twitter spaces Derek and I were on, Hunter Dickinson, even on a good night, he could go for 20 and 12 and have a great box score. The amount of defensive miscues that happen in a game because of him primarily being the primary defender is alarming. And I cannot stress enough how much that's going to bite us in the butt this year, because we've already seen three of the last, was it 4 games or 3 of the last 5 games? KU's lost 3 of the last 5. And in those 3 losses, it's all been getting Hunter away from the paint and making him fight through ball screens. I don't know what it is about Bill Self and his coaching style. I haven't done the research on this yet, and I'm going to try and go back and figure this out. I don't know if Bill's changed his play style he's hedged for a long time. He's had guys, go under and then the big steps out. Hunter Dickinson's not that guy. He cannot do it. He's too slow. He can't get there quick enough. He gets beat. I don't know when that change happened, but I feel like in years past, maybe 10 years back now, the guards used to fight through those or switch over. I can't remember a 5-man that was hedging this far out on ball screens. I don't remember Cole Aldrich doing it that much. I don't think Jeff Withey did it that much. Now again, every team's a little different in how this shapes up, but to me, it's Hunter Dickinson could have an amazing night offensively, but the amount of times that he leads to a negative play on the defensive end really ticks me off. And it's starting to show in games where teams they've already figured out how to play KJ. Give him space. We saw that to start the game. KJ had 15 feet of space, misses the first jumper. Every team plays him far back, so he's completely ineffective. We were going to talk about it, but the spacing of DeJuan, KJ, and Hunter just never seems to work. And Bill is doing nothing about it, in my opinion. Now, in that game, I do think we saw something unique where we went to Flory and Hunter on the court at the same time, which I thought was insanely interesting. And Flory actually had one heck of a game for a freshman, played near perfect. I think he had maybe 2 or 3 plays that went poorly. But we saw Bill Self finally try something in the second half, and he went away from KJ. And oddly enough, the game turned around with KJ on the bench, Flory on the floor. Now, that's not the only reason why the game turned around, but to me, the majority of the issues KU has, I think, honestly, is more on Hunter than it is on KJ. Now, I am totally open to the argument from you guys that KJ is the problem because he still is a problem. But I said this to you guys, I think, on our last episode. To me, it's about Bill Self utilizing his 3 bigs, 2 bigs and KJ in the right manner, and you can play all 3. But it cannot be KJ for 30 minutes, Hunter for 36 minutes, and Flory for 12. Now, Flory got 17 minutes last night, looked really good. But to me, Hunter's the problem. The pick and roll screens were so bad. He missed a lot of bad shots too, took some ugly shots. But the pick and roll, the hedging the screens, the not being able to switch in a quick manner is what's frustrating me. So wanted to throw that out there to start. Would love your guys' thoughts on the pick and roll, what you're seeing from Hunter, and then we can get into some of the other talk with KJ, and then we got to talk about AJ Storr and Ryland Griffin too. According to Self, they offer absolutely nothing, which is why they're not playing in important minutes. But I also look at that and go, well, what the heck is KJ doing to offer you anything? Because he had a terrible box score, and he says Ryland and Storr need to rebound, and yet KJ can't rebound either. So there's a lot we got to talk about. But I want to start there with Hunter. That to me, a majority of our problems are all centered around Hunter's inability to defend outside of 3 feet of the paint and his lack of athleticism being a crutch for this team.
I agree with that, Keegan, and I think that it's tough when Hunter's so good offensively, but he can't be that same caliber player on the defensive end. I don't know what value that brings. At the end of the day, if you get us 2 points, but you lose us 2 points, you're a wash. And speaking of washing, is Bill Self washed? No, we can say that for another time. I'm not talking about that.
There's
right
JB.
now.
There's JB's hot take.
I said it last time that it's possible. It's possible that Bill Self is washed. Bill Self is the type of guy that's right now with all this losing that he's been doing makes me want to change my colors on my LED lights to red for Chiefs because I'm done with this team. That's what I'm talking about with this stupid team. All right. I gotta calm down.
Fire
Derek,
on Around the Horn,
Derek.
If we can get that graphic.
We could do a segment like that sometime. I will say this real quick on the Bill Self thing. I don't think it's that he's washed. We talked about this again last time on Twitter. I think he has a system that he believes is effective. And to me, it seems like he's trying to force the team he has to play that style when it's not within their skill set. So instead of adapting quicker to what they can do, I think he's just trying to prove that, hey, if you guys will play my system, it'll work. And again, that's another conversation too of, does Bill Self need to figure out how to be more flexible with his play style? Because we've seen in the past that 2017, 2018 team was the first team to play the exact opposite of a Bill Self team. There was no paint presence. It was all shooting and driving lanes and all that. And he adapted to the way that team was. Doesn't seem like he's done that with this case. AJ Storr is an attack the ball, attack the rim kind of guy like an Andrew Wiggins. and we don't even see that opportunity. Rylan Griffin is a spot up 3-point shooter and a cutter. Don't see that because it's all about this Hunter, KJ, DeJuan triangle offense that just summed it up. But I wanted to say that too about Bill Self. I don't think it's that he's washed. I think he truly believes his system is best, but maybe it's time that he starts to adapt his style to the guys he has instead of trying to get them to change their style to adapt to him.
I absolutely think he needs to adapt. My problem is it's tough because I know deep down in my heart, I'm not as smart as Bill Self, okay? I'm not. But I mean, there has to be an answer somewhere on this roster. Noah, I said you said maybe, more Rakis Passmore. It wouldn't hurt at this point to at least try something. But it seems like KU fans on Twitter have been saying that KJ is the problem more so than Hunter, and I think there's an argument for that. Derek, I don't know if you have any 2 cents on this, but what would you say? Do you think this is definitive? Have we seen enough this season so far to say that benching KJ would be step numero uno into fixing this roster?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I said at the beginning of the season, you have to
Chris
bench
is calling
KJ.
for it in the comments.
Well, you have to bench. I mean, I was saying all along you have to bench KJ, but again, he's Bill Self's guy. To answer Keegan's question, to kind of respond to what Keegan has said about Hunter, I mean, I think it's a combination of both. I mean, I'd almost rather have a wash in terms of, Hunter scoring a basket and giving up a basket, because at least it's even, right? Then it's an even playing field. So him getting a double-double, yeah, it's great and stuff, but and to answer, I think, was it Noah's, why are they hedging ball screens? I think that's the only thing that's been kind of working, because if you switch, then he's just going to get cooked one-on-one, right? So you almost have to.
In years past, the hedging was fine because they'd have a more athletic guy. Like even Udoka Azubuike, who is bigger, he's not the same height as Hunter, but he's a bigger guy, could hedge those ball screens quicker because he had a better footwork. And he's done that in the past with bigs, but Hunter just does not have the skill set to hedge or switch.
And arguably, I think McCormick I think Big Dave was actually a bit worse. I just remember Texas Tech.
True.
They were doing pick and pop with Bryson Williams literally every single time around the floor, and he made 6 threes that game. And then Bill finally threw KJ out there, and he still couldn't recover quick enough, and Bryson banked in that 3 in overtime. And I'm like, oh, that's over. That game's over. I mean, drop coverage, whoever it is.
Which we did actually see. I charted that. Right. While you're talking, I'll pull it up. But I did chart how many times Hunter did drop in coverage and what it led to.
And I think that might be the least of all evils, the less of all evils, because, depending on who that player is, I mean, they're just going to pull up from 3, right? And so, depending on the matchup, depending on the team, I mean, it's going to be brutal. I mean, you can hide Hunter on a corner shooter, right? Maybe I don't know. I don't know at this point. But I think his offensive. I mean, but that's the thing. My biggest problem, especially with that game, is they didn't look to establish Hunter down low first. And to me, that's coaching. Bill's always been inside out first. So why not establish that? Go to your bread and butter. Go to your bread and butter, cross screen, down screen. I think they called it Utah, right? To get Hunter a post up. Go to your post seal, right? Where he sets the pin down for Zeke to come around and then throw it over the top, right? Like North Carolina. I mean, it didn't look very. It didn't. Dave's foot speed what didn't look very good most of the season. let's be real here. Come on, guys.
His senior year, he was dealing with a foot injury most of his senior year, apparently.
Right.
Because he couldn't dunk the ball that year.
Yeah. But I mean, I just don't understand. I just don't understand why Bill didn't call play for Hunter. And I think they might have tried to go to Hunter, and then they did a good job of kind of doubling him. But still, you can't. They have to keep motioning. It has to keep the offense has to keep going, and it keeps getting stagnant.
Yeah, and I think
mean,
you're onto something there. But the problem is the way teams are defending is they're sagging off of KJ and Dewan a little bit to where they can't really establish Hunter's position really well. Like I thought Hunter was out of position quite a bit today. Now to answer an earlier question, you said drop coverage. From my calculation, he gave up 3 buckets in drop coverage, and if I got it right, he went to drop coverage 5 times. One of those was a 3 that went in, and then 2 of them were little floater jumpers. So neither one really worked effectively. I think if you're an opposing team, you go, all right, we just go wherever Hunter is on the court and we try to score from there. And wherever Hunter is, there's a lot of space around him. But so neither was effective. Again, to me, it goes back to his inability to defend the ball, on the ball, off the ball, because his footwork and speed's just way too. I mean, it's like watching it in slow motion when he goes out to hedge 25 feet away from the basket, and then there's 40 feet of space between him and the goal somehow. But Spencer, hop in here. You've got a high basketball IQ. Tell me how we tell me. I think I have the defensive fix myself, but what are you seeing? What does Bill need to do? I mean, what do you want as a fan to see get this thing fixed? Because it's not working. It's ugly. We're not going to win a 20 game Big 12 schedule. Especially if we're losing to a depleted West Virginia team at home.
Right. I think the most important thing first is to figure out what the root cause of defensive issues are. So there's 3 things, right? It's inexperience. He's a 9th-year senior, however long he's been in college. It's not that. Effort or conditioning. That's what it is. So if it's conditioning, instead of playing 30-plus minutes, knock him down to 25. Have him play shorter stints at a time. That's doable. Get him into more cardio, in between games. There's solutions there. If it's effort, you bench him. That's really all that it goes down to. So the coaching staff needs to actually analyze the film and say, is this guy does he not know what he's doing? Is he tired? Is he not moving his feet well? Or what is it? Because I think until you know the answer to that, it's hard to figure out what – I think if you're a guard and you're a bad defender, that's a little bit easier of a fix. A big man that's a bad defender, though, I don't really know what you do with that because we saw this game and it's going to continue to happen. Other teams are watching film of Hunter getting cooked, and they're going to keep doing the same things. They're going to keep putting him in pick and rolls where he is obviously at his weakest. So it's harder to hide him. I don't really know what you do with him defensively. So, again, find out what the cause of it is. And we'll get to Bill in a sec. I love Bill Self. He's top 5 person in history, right? In my opinion, right? But he's frustrated me this season because his whole shtick is that you adapt to my system and you play the KU style or you're benched. Even with a guy like Remy a couple of years ago, who's an elite offensive talent, you don't conform, you're benched. How is a guy that doesn't play defense still getting playing time? How is a guy like KJ, who had 1 rebound yesterday in 28 minutes, not getting benched? This is like Bill Self 101. This is what he hates more than anything, and he still sticks it out. That's the part that's been really confusing.
Fire.
I don't understand.
Spencer rants.
And here's what I think the answer to this is that Rylan and Storr, they both played 15-plus minutes yesterday and essentially did nothing. So it may be that there is a lot of widespread issues that, and KJ and Hunters we notice more because they play more. But that's the whole thing with me. If Self watches this past game, he's watching film, and Hunter's just lackadaisical, he shouldn't even sniff the floor the next game. That's the thing that just drives me crazy. I mean, if it's mistakes, okay, let's work on these mistakes. Let's have an entire practice where we just go through pick and roll drills. But if this guy is just sauntering around like he's got 2 broken feet, get him off the court at that point, because there's really no way to fix it if that's.
So I do want to touch on this from Jayhawk Edits. I think this is something I've thought a lot about. I was all on board with going and getting Hunter Dickinson in the transfer portal. He was by far the most talented, offensively skilled big man, and KU's never had a 7-footer that could step out and shoot like him. I'll be honest, though, I did not know he was this bad of a defender at the time we got him.
Yeah.
But I also, when we talked about on the podcast many times, when it was getting Hunter Dickinson, the thought process was, all right, he's going to get 20 touches a night in the middle. We got to surround him with 4 shooters. And we didn't do that. Kevin McCullough, not a typical 3-point shooter. DeJuan Harris, not a 3-point shooter. We brought in Nick Timberlake, and that didn't work.
Oh, God.
You got Johnny Furphy late, and he was going to be some of that, but, you know, a 17-year-old freshman. Who else was on this team last year that couldn't do anything from the wing? We didn't put the right pieces around. So like when you have a Hunter Dickinson type, you either need to have him back down the paint and be able to kick. Well, KJ, the problem was KJ. It all comes back to the same thing. It's Hunter, KJ, and DeJuan cannot share the court together. Those 3 cannot share the court. KJ is, again, I don't want to slander KJ. I think KJ is a fine player in the right team and the right system. KJ, I argued this on Twitter last night. To me, KJ needs to come off the bench. He needs to be the backup 5. And when KJ's in the game, we run and gun, up tempo, fast pace. We work KJ at the high ball screens, not the low ball screens, because KJ was super effective 2 years ago as the 5-man, as the undersized 5-man. He would score 10 to 14 a night on pick and rolls in the paint with DeJuan driving, and that was effective for KJ. Last year, you now go alongside a big who has to have the ball in his hands. You can't hide KJ in the court when Hunter has the ball in his hands. So to me, it's that. So if KJ's coming off the bench and Hunter gets the first 4 or 5 minutes, KJ comes in, we can change the way we run the offense. And this is where I want to get in this conversation is, again, we said this a few weeks ago, there's multiple types of offenses I think KU needs to run and Bill Self needs to look at. You go out and you drop the bag on AJ Storr, which I think at the time a lot of us were interested in, but we were also concerned with his play style transitioning to KU basketball. And here we are several weeks in the season, and AJ Storr has basically been non-existent, doesn't get enough playing time, gets pulled really early. Now, I think had that first shot he took gone in, maybe he would have had a longer leash.
Yeah.
But he's been basically non-existent on the court, and I want to argue that it's not necessarily as much him. I think it's the system. AJ cannot play alongside a guy like Hunter Dickinson. AJ's a guy that needs 15 to 25 touches a game because that's what he does best. Give him the ball, let him facilitate, create shots, and find ways to get him downhill towards the rim. Here, he catches the ball and passes it up because it has to go through the flow of the offense because that's a Bill Self system. So I think that's a lot of it too, is AJ's being forced to transition his game away from what his skill set is. So, again, we can say transfer portal is the problem. You know, I asked the question earlier in the chat, who is to blame? Is it Bill Self? Is it Hunter Dickinson? Is it KJ? Is it AJ? Is it Ryland? Is it the transfer portal system? Is it NIL? There's a lot to get into on this, and the answer is really they're all connected. But to me, we've got a collection of great individual pieces that at an individual level, everyone wants a Ryland Griffin on the team, an athletic wing that can play good defense, can run the court, be great in transition, hit threes, be a lob threat on the backside cut. Everybody wants that. Everybody needs a guy like AJ Storr who, when the offense is not working and you're coming down the final 6 seconds of the shot clock, he can say, get the heck out of my way and I'll go get a bucket. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants a 7'2" center that can turn around and get up shots and muscle you in the paint, but can also step out and hit a three if need be. Everybody wants that. DeJuan Harris, everybody wants a defensive-minded point guard that can shut down the opposing team's best guard and facilitate the offense. KJ, super athletic, probably the most athletic guy in the court more times than not. High energy, high motor. He's never going to give up. He's never going to quit on you, and he's never going to complain. Everybody needs a piece like that. But the collection of these guys just does not work together because it's all about Hunter Dickinson needing as many touches in space on the court. So what finally worked well yesterday was Flory coming in and changing things up. And I was shocked that he played Flory and Hunter as much together as they did. But Spencer, you're saying of how do you fix this Hunter thing? What they allowed Hunter to do was actually play a little bit away from the basket and let Flory kind of be the center fielder because he's got a long wingspan, super athletic, and much quicker where he could cover the distance faster. And I thought that was really effective. Now, we cannot play Hunter and Flory that much together because Flory is the backup 5, and we haven't really seen much of KJ being the backup 5 like we did a couple years ago. So I think that's part of it. But again, to me, it's the limitation of Hunter defensively. He has to be they almost need to go to like a box zone of sorts, or a 3-2 zone ish, or a 1-1-3-1 zone where Hunter basically stays within 3 feet of the paint and shuts everything down. That's what they did with Jeff Withey, because Jeff Withey, way better defender than Hunter, but couldn't go out and attack the 3-point line and cover a guy out there. Now back then 5 men weren't really shooting threes as much as they are now, but with Jeff Withey, they let him kind of stick around the paint, and they had athletic wings that could switch much easier. So there's a lot of problems. On the bright side though, Zeke Mayo has been tremendous. The hometown kid is averaging 26 points in his last 3 games, shooting really well. He's attacking. He's playing aggressive. He's getting downhill. He's the only guy getting to the free throw line. That's another problem this team's had, is nobody wants to get to the free throw line.
Kidding.
So he's a bright spot. But let me get your guys' take on the whole AJ situation. What do you think it is? I think it was last game. I want to say it was Matt Tate that asked Bill in post game of something about the rotation, and he's like, "What did you see from AJ and Ryan?" He's like, "Nothing." And then the same thing yesterday. What did you see from nothing? They didn't offer anything. And my take is that AJ, while he is on the court, they're not utilizing him with his skill set. Same thing. He's just another body on the floor because there's nowhere to attack the paint because KJ's in your way and then Hunter's behind him. So again, I said this weeks ago, AJ needs to be a focal point on offense, but the way that has to happen is either with KJ at the 5, Flory at the 5, and Hunter off the court. When Hunter's off the court, AJ's the focal point, or Zeke May is the focal point. Let's run and gun, get in transition, let AJ go downhill. And when he's going downhill, the defense will start to collapse. Rylan Griffin will be open in the corner. Zeke will be open in the corner, or you'll have a nice lob threat to KJ or Flory. That's one take I have, because I think AJ needs to be a focal point. I don't like the comments he's had on Rylan Griffin. I think Griffin's actually offered more than what he's getting credit for, but he's also one that kind of like Jalen Coleman lands in the sense of, if you're not hitting threes, then why are you on the floor? Now I think he's better than JCL by far, but he missed. I think he went 2 for 4 from 3?
Easy money.
One for 3.
1 for 3. 1 for 3. So one more 3, and he hits 1 more 3. It's a different game, but he had two threes, one that was kind of a forced shot, and then one that was open that missed. But I don't think either one of those guys are getting enough run time with this group. And again, it's just all coming back to Bill Self trust Hunter and KJ no matter what. And at the end of the day, is Bill Self going to change? And I don't know if he's going to. Now, again, the second half we saw him do something that I did not think he would do. So maybe that's the start to get the ball rolling on him making some rotation changes coming up. But if we keep seeing this, it's going to be a long Big 12 season. And my early prediction is KU might be the team that does not finish as a top 4 seed.
That scares me. That scares me. I'm terrified. This team has the talent to be a number 1 seed, to be a national title favorite, because guess what? That's what we were coming into the season. So, I mean, you say in danger of being a top 4 seed. The way that we've been playing, I'm a little bit worried that if we continue to lose in this tough Big 12, if we just continue to lose and lose and lose, we might be falling out of the top 25. So, going back to what I said earlier toward the beginning of our recording, I love streaks, and that's another streak that I really love, is our consecutive weeks in the top 25 AP poll. If someone is available to look up how many weeks we're at right now, that would be incredible. I love that. And honestly, I'm scared. The way we've been playing, I don't know. Am I freaking out too much? I don't. I feel like I've been so dramatic this entire recording, but it's just, man, I'm so sick of losing. I'm really just so tired of it. But no, I think at the end of the day, guess what, guys? After the season is over, we won't have to worry about DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson being on the floor together anymore, because all 3 of them will be gone, and then we're gonna have a much better team next year.
KU did end that streak back in 2021. They
What?
went like 12 years
No
without
way.
falling out. Yeah, I remember that team was bad. That was
Oh,
the team we
shoot.
got
All right,
blown out
well,
by
yeah.
USC. Yeah, but
Yeah.
they got back in. It wasn't very long.
That's
I
just sad.
I want to revisit Storr real quick.
Yes,
because
please.
I think
Because it's maddening that we go out and we intentionally bring in one of the top transfer portal candidates, a guy that was heavily recruited by other programs. We spent what I think anywhere from 800 to 1.2 million supposedly to get him,
Yeah.
and we were all talking preseason that he should compete for 1, 2, or 3 in scoring, and was listed as a preseason All-American potential candidate and a Wooden Award watch list, and he's been nothing.
Well, I think the boogeyman in all this is spacing still. That's our biggest problem offensively. And we were talking about Hunter Dickinson. There's multiple times in the game, there's a point where Hunter's on the block and DeJuan is in the quarter and KJ's at the top and he's trying to feed Hunter the ball. Well, the defender's sagging off like 10 feet from KJ, and that corner defender is going to cheat off of DeJuan every single time. So it works that way for post play, but it's the same thing when you're a slasher scorer guy and you're trying to get to the rim. It's congested. Everyone's going to help off their guy, and that's going to make it very challenging for a ball dominant scorer to get to the rim and finish. Now, I think it's egregious for him to not have free throws. He should be a guy getting to the free throw line frequently because that's his game, get to the basket and score. But it's really hard to do that when there's no driving lanes.
Yeah, there's
And
no
so
space.
I'm almost of the opinion that I would like probably for Storr to be the guy coming off the bench. I think Griffin makes a lot more sense in the starting lineup. He's a better shooter and a better defender, so he's going to help with spacing, especially if we're not going to bench KJ or Hunter. And then once you get a little bit more, freedom in there, and you're running a little bit more flexible lineups when they're off the court, then Storr can come in and he can be the primary scorer. So I don't know. I it's very early in the season to give up hope on any particular player. And let's move to some positives. I know that's very challenging here, but let's move to some positives. Number one, we had a guy go 13 for 13 from the free throw line. That's
I'm pretty sure he made more free
Sent.
throws today than KU has made all season. That's a stretch, but 13 for 13 is insane.
I wouldn't be surprised. So Zeke has been an absolute dog. He is a crazy good one-on-one scorer. I have always been – I'm just going to go through the entire lineup here real quick. I've always been the biggest DeJuan Harris fan. I love DeJuan. He's the one guy that I will defend with my life. I know he's not a good shooter, but he controls tempo better than most guards in the country, and he is a phenomenal one-on-one defender. I mean, what he does is not going to show up in the – box score. So I don't like DeJuan Harris slander because I think he is a phenomenal player. KJ is a very good basketball player, right? And at the end of the day, starting to me is very arbitrary. I don't really care who starts. It's all about the lineups who see the most minutes and the lineups that finish the game.
Lineup that's the most effective.
Exactly. So
by the way, Chris, I agree. This is the lineup I personally like the best too.
Same.
I would agree as well. Yes. But so, I mean, he's a good basketball player. He's got really good high energy, great athlete, good conditioning, can run back and forth, very high energy on defense. But until we figure out that lineup problem, I mean, it's not really, I don't want to say it's his fault because I mean, he controls how well he plays, but he's just in a bad system right now. And the same thing with Hunter. Hunter's a prolific low post scorer. I mean, he reminds me of David Lee with Golden State, if you guys remember right. Yeah. And it's not because he's tall, white, and left-handed. They play similar. So, Hunter's a really good option for us. I mean, do you know how lucky we are to have a guy that we can dump it down in the post and just get us a bucket? With all these raw offensive centers you see in college basketball that are just rim runners and think they're stretch fours, but they shoot 25% from three. I mean, that is
until they play Kansas and then they go 3 for 5.
Well, right. Especially if they look like lumberjacks and stuff. So, so there are positives on this team. This team has talent to make a deep run in the March, but I'm almost of the opinion, like, I don't really care who starts, but when we're finishing the game, I want to see Harris out there. I want to see Zeke. I want to see Storr. I want to see Griffin. And depending on if Hunter's had a good game defensively, keep him in. But Flory's a guy, he's a lot more energetic. He did have an egregiously bad foul yesterday, which I was screaming at my TV. Don't jump.
On
Stay
the
your feet.
3 at the end of the game.
Yes, that
Freshman
was
mistake.
agree.
Hey,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
he
that
did
makes
though.
sense.
I
Yeah.
noted this down. I wrote this down. Flory picked up full court one-on-one defense and looked phenomenal
Yeah,
as a 6'9" big man. Guarding a guy, bringing the ball up the court, full court. Loved it.
I know, but Self is not going to trust him in crunch time. He had no choice, but
Especially
to
Not
do
yet,
that.
at least.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially
yeah.
Now,
now.
if he keeps doing what he's doing
Yeah.
and gets a defensive stop, I mean, like, because remember KJ's freshman year, that's all KJ was. He came in to be a physical, athletic presence and get a stop, and he
Right.
showed up in the national championship and Final Four and made a huge difference. I think Flory can do that because Flory is I think best athlete of the three of them as a big man. I think Flory can switch, maybe not 1 through 5, but he can switch enough. I mean, KJ can switch 1 through 5. He just doesn't have the same size. But I think Spencer, you're onto something there with the end of games. Like, I don't want to see Hunter out there defensively unless he's having a good game. But when has he had a good defensive game? He can't even at 7'2", he can't freaking block a shot. Flory at least has the motor and skill set to do it, and KJ has the athleticism to switch. So I mean, again, that's why I go back to Chris's lineup here of this. And even if Flory's not doing well, I still think KJ as the 5-man in this scenario. You've got 4 guys that could switch there. Zeke and Dewan might get hurt a little bit going up against somebody big, but Griffin and Storr are athletic enough to switch. And then that gives you an athletic group that can move the ball offensively where there's spacing. It's like everything goes back to spacing.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Everything that we've brought up, like for the positives, like Spencer highlighted, and all the negativity that we've kind of pointed out. To me, it's all on coaching. The spacing, that's a coaching thing, because we'll
go back to my question: who is to blame? Is Bill Self the one to take most of this?
It's the coaching. To me, it's the coaching. So it is Bill Self, because if I think I'm gonna kind of counter what you said, Keegan, that I think Storr and Hunter can coexist on the floor. The problem is it's the coaching. They're not running enough plays. They're not balancing the inside-out game enough.
Yeah.
Look at the Duke game. They ran a horn set and a curl for AJ Storr at the beginning of the game. Even before that, they ran a post. They ran a post up for Hunter. So you're establishing the inside game. Then you're establishing then your star player from the portal, right? So to say. So I don't know. I mean, he had what? He came into the game 4 times, and he left with like 18 minutes left in the second half, and he didn't return to the game. Storr, which baffles me.
I thought he was in there in the last 5-6 minutes of the game.
I think
he came back in towards the end of it. But it's back to your point. When he's on the court, he played 15 minutes yesterday, took 2 shots. Literally has zeros across the board on his box score. So he literally had no impact on the game.
And trivia question.
Oh,
how many free throws? What's the highest number of free throw attempts AJ Storr has attempted in all of our games this season?
This year, for us, 3.
6.
4.
Oh,
4.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a problem. That was a guy
and he's done that. He's only done that twice. There are 5 games where he didn't attempt a single free throw, which is disgusting. Okay, to me,
he's averaging 1.3 free throws a game this year, and he averaged 4.3 last year.
To me, that could be a combination of game flow and stuff, but to me, it ultimately goes back to coaching, because you're not putting one of your best players on paper in a position to, within your system, to highlight his strengths. And like, what happened? I said this last night. Like, what happened to the weave game? Where has the weave been? Because if you do that weave on the perimeter, that opens up driving. That opens up driving lanes. Why was Jalen Wilson so successful? Because he came off a weave action and drove down the lane and drew fouls. So that's what they need to go back to.
But again, he didn't have KJ and Hunter next to him. So
Dude.
it all goes back to individually, these guys are great, but we cannot overlap DeJuan, KJ, and Hunter as much to be as effective. I agree with you that AJ can play alongside Hunter if we run sets for him, including the offense. We just haven't seen it. Bill hasn't done it.
Right, and again, that goes back to coaching, and so there has to be a good balance, and he has to trust. This sounds crazy, but Bill Self has to trust his own system, to get his guys.
He's got to let the guys play.
Right.
Again, I mean,
right.
it's tough to say that
Right.
now because it's Big 12 play, and he's going to get the rotation tighter. But like, somebody mentioned on another podcast within the last week, and I can't remember which podcast it was now. It was either on KCSN or could be wrong, but they mentioned like, at what point do you let a guy play through, but because you're letting him play through, it's actually having a negative impact on the other guys on the court. So it's like, okay, if AJ Storr is struggling, do you let him play through it and figure it out, or do you say, hey man, that's because you're struggling, it's actually disrespect to the other four guys on the court who have figured it out? I don't know, because I also think the other four guys don't have it figured out right now. But I thought that was an interesting take of how much do you let a guy play through it until it actually has a further negative impact on the other guys around to where it pulls them down. But
For
yeah,
AJ
I'm a
Storr,
proponent. They gotta play. They gotta play through
Yeah,
it
for
somehow.
AJ Storr, he's got to. The coaching staff has to let him figure it out. And I mean, I would argue if the only change I would make to that lineup that Chris mentioned, or was it DeJuan, Mayo, Storr, Griffin, and Flory? I would argue. I mean, as much as I know Spencer loves DeJuan, like, I mean, I would almost put Diggy in there because he's an offensive guy. Because with Harris and Flory there, those are you can't. That's 5-on-3 on offense to me. Okay, because DeJuan's going to drive to pass, and so you can clog up every passing lane. You don't even need to guard him. His only offensive move, when Coach Self yells hot, which means you need to create a shot at the end of the shot clock, all he does is drive right and tries to hit that floater or tries to hit that bank shot on the right side. That's all he does, right? With Diggy, he can do a crossover. He can drive to the basket,
Step back.
and a step back, right? And so, to me, it just goes back to coaching and like everyone has said, it's spacing, and you have
Which is
to
coaching,
allow
coaching and spacing,
right, which is
coaching and
right,
spacing.
and as like. And I think Nick Springer on KCSN mentioned he's KJ's the prototypical six man. I don't think he is, because a six man is you come off the bench. To me, a six man is Remy Martin, right? A guy who can come off the bench, bring you instant offense.
Yeah,
which is not KJ. It's not KJ.
Yeah,
KJ
I
is
think you
instant
could argue
offense.
though.
Yeah,
He
KJ
brings
is
a different
KJ
type of game.
Right. Yeah. KJ is instant offense in transition when he's running the floor. But that's it, right? You're not going to throw it to him. He has no low post moves. Flory has no low post moves. Hunter is the only guy that has an offensive game in the low post, and that's why you have to keep him in there because all of the sets run through a low post man.
That's true.
That's the system. Unfortunately, that's the system. And almost every play runs through that low post. The 1-4 back cut, the post seal, the cross screen down screen. You can go on and on.
Jayhawk, I mean, I'm sure you guys got this too. Bill literally said this in post game because somebody asked him about that. And he goes, I don't know, maybe we'll just run three bigs out there because he really doesn't want to play Griffin or Storr because they're not doing anything. I'm like, all right, now you want to throw KJ at the 3 and really have no spacing? Where the frick is Zeke Mayo going to run on this court with those guys out there? But yeah, he'll totally do it just to prove a point. Wish the point would be something different. Like, again, I get we've had the argument so much on 50 different podcasts between ours and all the other guys around here of KJ is Mr. Jayhawk, and he is KU through and through. He is the prototypical player that Bill Self loves. And so it's like, is it doing him a disservice to take him off the court? Because he's truly a guy that has earned every second of playing time with the way he hustles in the heart. I think that's true, but you can also look at it and go, all right, KJ has overexposed his abilities because he's not meant to be more than what he is in this type of setup. So what would be doing him a more disservice? Playing him out of position and forcing him, like that ended the play there at the end of the game. They had a timeout left. They could have set something up with more than 2 seconds notice. I understand that, we thought KJ would get one-on-one. Sure. But KJ caught the ball 70 feet away, had to flip around and double team and throw something up and couldn't get a shot off because that's not KJ's game. That's not what he's meant to do. You could have done that with Hunter. Hunter 7'2" could turn around and shoot it better than
what
KJ
was more
did.
egregious, that play at the end of the game, or when we stole the ball and KJ just goes up for a shot? Like, what is he doing?
Yeah, immediately.
What is
the
KJ
possession
doing?
before.
You have,
I think he did. There was a split second there where he had the gap to get it, but he was too far away from the bucket.
To me, that was his most egregious mistake. Like they missed the backcourt violate. They missed the phantom backcourt call on Zeke, which was ridiculous. I mean, and KJ caused the travel on Javon Small. That was a travel. He slipped. He fell. That's a travel.
He never lost control of the ball, though.
Yeah,
I saw a lot of talk on that, but the ball kept dribbling.
And he made a ridiculous shot. But to me, KJ's most egregious error was at that end of the game. We pressure. We do full court pressure. It worked. We get the steal. Was that DeJuan who got the steal, or was that Z? I forgot who it was.
I think it was Diggy.
Yeah, that was my first thought. And then
I think it was Diggy.
He passes it to KJ, which I get, but you have time. You have a time, like bring it back out.
It ended up being 1-on-2 where KJ went up and then the help defender was right there.
What did you run at the end of North Carolina? You ran post seal. Guess what the result of that game was, right? I mean, run your stuff.
If you guys seen that video, I think it was Patrick Ewing when he was coaching for Georgetown. I can't remember who he coaches for, and it's during a timeout, and he says, "A one-legged step back three. Do you work on that shot? When have you ever worked on that shot?" I need to know who drew up the play to have KJ turn a turnaround jumper. That's not
from 18 feet away, fading to his left.
That's they were Self was in the lab, the coaching staff was in the lab, like, all right, we need a perfect play to run. A KJ turnaround 18-footer. I need someone to explain this to me like I'm 5, because I don't really understand. I'd rather have Zeke streaking down, cut across the court, catch it near the corner. I trust a fadeaway 3.
I'd rather lose the game on the ball being stolen doing that, because it's going into the hands of heck. Even if that was Juan shooting a half court shot, I would still feel better about trying to get the ball into a guy that is capable of shooting than forcing KJ to make a ridiculous shot with his back to the basket with very little time. Like that's, and again, Bill's one, he's talked about this in the past on his philosophy with end of game timeouts. And he's like, I let the players decide. A lot of that. That was a moment there after the made free throw to call the timeout instead of, they basically set up. Now I'm sure he told them in between, hey, here's the set we're going to run. And I do think he legitimately thought, hey, KJ is going to be in a prime position because they're not going to be thinking about him. Well, you still had to turn around and put up a ridiculous floater. And then they took Hunter out. I mean, I think that the fans got irritated too. They brought Flory back in and then sat Hunter instead of KJ, and the fan base got mad and started screaming. Like that to me was an opportunity of, Hunter's 7'2". I know he can't jump worth crap, but you're telling me he can't catch the ball over a 6'8" guy and then turn around and float something up better than KJ could. It was just all around bad. And again, we said at the beginning of the episode, if KJ gets fouled there, hits both free throws, and we win, we still have a lot of frustrations, but we're not sitting here for an hour going, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. This team's going nowhere. One thing I did want to bring up, completely unrelated to this team, but just watching Zeke Mayo, how great would it have been if we had him last year? There was talk of him transferring to KU at the end of the previous season, but he wasn't going to be a primary focal point. Now, he had a tremendous year last year. His junior season was okay, but not as good as last year. But if we had the Zeke we have now on last year's team, even with Kevin McCullough going down, that team looks so different. They still might lose to Gonzaga in the tournament, but man, wouldn't have been great to have another ball scoring guard that could shoot and create and facilitate.
Didn't Self mention in a press conference in the offseason that they couldn't recruit Zeke because of the infraction? Like it was some kind of like workout. It was some kind of like workout or something. I don't know if I remember something.
Well, see, and that was something somebody brought up last night. They were talking about the transfer portal, and what I don't think most fans realize is we had to do the transfer portal because of the infractions case. I mean, Bill Self, the first time he's free and clear of infractions, he puts together one of the best recruiting classes. He's got one of the best recruits he's ever recruited in Darren Peterson coming in next year. He hasn't been able to recruit a top 40 prospect in the last 6 seasons, essentially. So you have to go to the transfer portal to make up for that. So I do think fans need to take that in consideration with the way the last several years of, he's adding too many, we're transferring in too many guys that might have experience elsewhere, and it's showing that the chemistry is tough. But I think we're going to see a shift over the next year or two where I don't think it's going to be we're going to bring 4 transfers, and I think it'll be we're going to get 1 or 2 role players because next year Flory's your starting 5, Bryson Tiller's playing the 4, in my opinion. If AJ Storr returns, he's your 3. If Rylan Griffin returns, he's your 3. It's Darren Peterson, and then plug in either probably a transfer guard, and you're rolling. But
Man,
anyway, any other thoughts you guys want to get off before we jump out? Anybody else in the comments? We still got 15 or so people sitting in here. So if you guys got anything else you want to rattle off in the comment section, feel free. A couple days away, Saturday, Monday, I can't remember now. KU goes to play at UCF, who just had a big time road win. And now
Sunday.
Austin texted this to a couple of us the other day. He was going through the Big 12 schedule. He's like, man, if who the heck are we gonna beat on the road? And now I'm looking at that UCF game going, if UCF could go on the road and win in Big 12 play, how the heck are we gonna go down there and win? They beat Texas Tech 87-83. And they've been putting up 80 plus points in almost all their games. So they're not to be taken lightly.
3 of our next 4 games are on the road. Which is not good.
So what is best case scenario during including the West Virginia game? Let's go West Virginia, UCF, Arizona State, Cincinnati, and Iowa State. For you guys to feel great, does it need to be 4-1? Does KU have to win the next 4? What do you think is going to happen over these next 4 games?
For me to feel great about this team, yeah, because at this point, I'm eyeballing my stupid remote for these lights, and I'm like, do I go K-State? Do I start rooting for K-State?
Dude, they're a mess of themselves.
Oh, they are. And by the way, I would never root for K-State. I hate K-State more than Mizzou, and you can fight me on that. But anyway, no, I think to feel great about this team, it's honestly you got to win all.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked if we go 0-3 on the road.
No.
At Iowa State, a top 5 team in the country. At Cincinnati, a top 20 team.
Nah, we got it.
We lost to UCF 2 years ago down there.
Doesn't matter.
It was last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
We got it.
Yeah, I'd be happy with the Iowa State, honestly, if we just win there. I think that'll.
I'm cool with that.
I mean, Hilton is a tough place to play anyway. So pair that with the fact that they're number 3 in the country last time I looked. I'd be thrilled if that was the only game we won, honestly, because we're gonna drop. I mean, listen, we're gonna drop some games here and there. I think in our pre-season episode, I said there's going to be at least a handful of games in here that we probably should win, and everyone's going to be really pissed off about it. And here we are. Everyone's pissed off.
The first Big 12 game.
The first game, yeah, it did not take us long at all. But I think honestly, if we beat Iowa State and UCF where we lost last season, I would be happy.
All right.
Yeah, I'd be thrilled. I'd be thrilled with 3-1. Absolutely thrilled. I mean, what's probably going to happen? 2-2. I mean, hopefully not, but probably 1-3.
Well, I tweeted it this morning, and I feel bad. I stole it from another KU fan account because they posted it this morning too, and I will pull up to give credit to them. But KU football has more road games this season than their last 9 road games than KU basketball. The
Road
Hunter
wins.
Dickinson era, KU has 1 true road win in the Hunter Dickinson era, which is pathetic. KU football has 3 road wins in their last 9 road games. KU basketball has 1. So that is terrifying and scary. Yeah, I tweeted that this morning, and I also saw it from it was Rock Chalk Talk tweeted it this morning. Yeah, Kansas basketball is 1-8 in its last 9 true road games, and the football team is 3-6 in their last 9. What alternate universe are we living in where that is the case? I have no clue. Do not have a lot of confidence in this team on the road. I think we've got pieces, but it's again spacing and coaching. I am very curious to see how Bill Self is going to adapt this week. I would hate to be at practice this week because I'm sure it's going to be intense. Here we go. Sacrifice
No.
Chiefs 3-peat for no. Sacrifice. I'm cool with KU missing the tournament this year if it means the Chiefs.
No, I'm not.
Chiefs 3-peat.
I'm not.
Chiefs 3-peat.
Shut your mouth. You are not. No.
I'll agree with you on that.
Chiefs 3-peat.
No.
Guarantee a 3-peat.
Never happened.
No.
This team's not winning.
That'll end another
this team's
streak.
not winning
Yeah,
a national
that'll
championship.
end another streak for JB. Yeah, that won't be good.
Okay.
That won't be
He
good.
gets bounced
I
in the
revoke
first round.
your
KU loses
fan
in the first
status.
round.
I would
First round
love
loss for a Chiefs 3-peat.
Yes, I would
Okay.
absolutely
All right.
do that. I don't care.
We can settle
Make
on
the
that. That's
tournament
fine.
because that's another streak. Is how many tournaments we've made, and I don't care about any like postseason.
Yeah, stupid 20, whatever.
asterisks.
Doesn't count.
There's
Screw that. No.
Well, there's no discernible difference between us getting blown out by 30 in the first round and not making the tournament. I'd almost rather us not go if we're not going to
Spencer, shut.
performance.
No, shut your mouth, dude. That's a
Then it's
great
on a
streak that we
national
need to hold on to.
scale.
I
Okay,
do
hey, let me
not
throw this
care.
out. Let me throw this out to you then, and we'll end it with this. KU misses the tournament this year, but guarantees you 2 national championships in the next 10 years.
Yes.
No.
Would you take that,
Are
or
you
would
out
you
of your
run the
mind?
table?
What? What do you mean no?
Because we're not UConn or Villanova over here where we win one every 4 years. So yeah, I can guarantee you 2 national
2 of the next
championship
10.
victories between now and 2035. But KU misses the tournament altogether this year, or KU makes the tournament and we run the table the next 10 years and try to get 2 national championships. It's tough, man.
If you made it 3 or 4 natties in the next 10 years, I might consider your offer.
Okay,
but
KU misses the tournament this year and then wins back-to-back championships
I would do it.
in the next 5 years.
Okay. Well,
I would do it
still insane to say no.
because of back to back. No, it's not because back to back is different.
That's why I'm cool with sacrificing the season for Chiefs 3-peat.
Yo, okay, no, okay.
Now,
But,
in
like,
reality, all the overacting we do, it's always in Bill Self we trust. He's going to figure it out. They still did the best they could last year with some really ugly pieces, and he's got a lot more talent this year. The depth I think is actually there. They just got to figure out how to play together.
we do. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of AJ Storr this weekend. I would be shocked. But maybe we saw enough good things from Flory that he figures out how to just switch things up and change the play style. Or, we just let Zeke cook. I mean, if Zeke's taking 20 shots a game and he's 50% or higher from the floor, I'm cool with that too.
No, but we need that offensive balance. So Storr would be the perfect guy to break down UCF because we carved them up in the first half and then they mucked it up in the second half, leading to our egregious loss. But I mean, I expect Storr and Griffin to show up on Sunday. I mean, they better show up. I mean, because now Zeke, he's scored 25 plus the past 3 games. First guy to do that since Ochai, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, I expect. Zeke's going to be the number one, on the scouting report for UCF. And so that means Storr and Griffin have to pick it up. So
last thing I'll say in this game
We'll
this
see.
weekend, take the under on Hunter Dickinson points. He's going up against a 7'2" center. Hunter is terrible against guys close to his size, as most bigs are. Let's be honest. Most guys that are your same size you struggle with, but Hunter has always struggled against length. And Mustafa Thiam is 7'2", and he's their primary big man. So I fully expect Hunter to struggle Sunday, which means it's going to be an ugly game to try and win. So, yeah, those other guys are going to have to step up. But
And
any other final thoughts?
Why isn't Shaquille Moore playing more?
I think it's about working him back in, and you know, he hasn't been able to. He's only really been practicing like the last week and a half, essentially. But yeah, we don't know. We don't even know what we have with him.
Right, which
There's
is
not
fine,
enough tape on him either.
But that's the thing. Like the spurts that he's played. I mean,
Well, the reason he's not playing is because you played. DeJuan played 38 minutes and Zeke played like 35. So you're not going to play. I don't think Self wants to play all three at the same time, because then you're playing Zeke at the 3, and he's really not a 3 man. I think he could play it, but I mean, David Coit played 17. He gives you a little bit more offensively than Shaq does. Yeah, Zeke played 36 and DeJuan played 38. So it's going to be hard for him to get minutes. But yeah, I would like to see, an 8 to 10 minute stretch of him. Like that's the other problem I have with rotations is it's hard to be effective when you only get 4 minutes or 3 minutes, 2 minutes. So if you're not part of that first rotation of 8 minutes, how do you get enough floor time to show what you can do? But anyway, we've been at it a while. Let's end it there. Appreciate everybody who's joined us so far. This number jumped quite a bit throughout. So thank you guys so much for joining us live. Again, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below here on YouTube. You can also check us out on Spotify if you want to listen later. Send it to a friend. We're continuing to build this podcast up for more than just KU content. Like I said at the beginning, have a lot of fun things in store for 2025 on the podcast. Other guests are going to be joining us, a couple shows we might potentially add. So stay tuned for all that. You can give us a like and a follow over on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at KCSA Pod. You got all of our handles here too if you want to check us out. But yeah, that'll wrap it up on this one. The basketball woes, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, are still here. But hopefully KU can figure it out, because Big 12 play is a gauntlet and it does not end. So hopefully we can recoup, recap, regroup for Sunday and get back in the win column. But yeah, appreciate you guys. Rock Chalk, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Happy New Year and Rock Chalk.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for having me on. Happy New Year. Rock Chalk.